Hey everybody, this is Alessandro. Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to analyze with you the animation of Expedition 33. This is a game is doing fantastically well at the moment. I'm playing it, I'm loving it. And the reason I want to start it with you because I think this is one of the cases where even though the combat is turn-based, the animation here really play a key role into the readability of the gameplay, okay? And I think there are a couple of things that we can really learn about this game, how they did the animation, about the posing, timing, and that's what I want to discuss and analyze with you. So we're gonna start basically from combat, and we're gonna start some of the basic attack of the main character, right? So we have the main character here, all right? And so one of the things I want to discuss with you guys that even though the camera is behind the character itself, you see how he reads very well the poses. Okay, they look extremely dynamic. Okay, they look really nicely done. Okay, they have the hands here in readability, they have the other arms here, right? I really love how they make the sword extremely readable here, right? Really well done. You can see they really take care of the poses. And when he does the strike, again, the animation is really fast, and I don't think it's they really had to polish a lot those animation because the timing is really fast. So sometimes I don't want to say it's just enough to go from one pose to another, but I'm pretty sure also with all the visual effects, the motion blur, they didn't have to do a really crazy amount of polish because sometimes when attacks are really quickly, it's just about having two very clear poses, right? As you can see in this example here, right? And uh, and then sometimes could be enough, right? And there are plenty of other examples here. I see how the anticipation reads very well here, right? You have this character in this position here, right? Look how she's kind of crossing the arm here, right? Putting it basically on the opposite side, right? Uh, right. I like, for example, how this arm here is in front. You see how it reads very well the silhouette here, and boom, again, look at here. See how the pose is really open, all right, compared to the compression um, of the anticipation, right? You see how it looks extremely dynamic. You can see sometimes a good combat, right? In my opinion, just by looking at the poses of of the character, how the poses are done, right? Okay, here we have the enemy doing a slam. Again, same stuff here. And look at other things. How do they play with contrast in space motion? So what do I mean by that? Is that you see how they are. It's a bit hard to see here because of the input, but look how the pose is basically compressed in here, right? You see, it's basically we're talking about the principle of squash here. Look like think about the entire body gesture, right? See, it's going here, right? It's going this kind of compress pose. Okay, I think the other hand is kind of here on the ground, right? I could have drawn this one a little bit better, but you're getting the idea, right? Think about from this pose here, how it goes up in the sky, right? So it stretch very quickly. And even though sometimes I think the camera they cannot really predict how the camera can be, right? Because or else I'm pretty sure an animator you would have done like a more uh, a little bit of a cleaner poses, right? These poses could have been, for example, a little bit cleaner, right? But because of the camera, you cannot always predict how the camera will move, right? I think in some case, in this specific case, like it stays behind. But again, even in order to still make it work, as you can see, they play with the contrast between the compression here, right, going down and then going up, right, and then one more time again going down. So you still have an amazing contrast here. Looks super dynamic. Or like okay, the impact feels very strong. even though sometimes due to the camera movement, you cannot always have the cleanest silhouette, right? Probably if the camera here was turned a little bit more on the side, this one I could have read a lot better, but it still works extremely well because of this contrast that you're in composition. So again, you go from squash, stretch, and squash again, right? And you see also after she's stand up again doing this kind of fancy gesture. So even here, always taking care of these very nice appealing poses, right? Try to really craft them very well whenever it's possible based on the camera angle, which is 95% of the time is behind, kind of three-quarter behind the character, right? See, even here, guys, when they pose the character, when you have the menu and everything, they make sure that the character is really, it reads very well. And for example, this is, I guess, the hand here is kind of casting, right? They got always gonna make sure it reads very well. Here you have the weapon and everything, so they are tilted, the character are being faced in a way that things read very well, and here you have enough space to read the menu. Very cool, very well done. I'm really loving it. Yeah, see same stuff here, right? There is this moment when the character starts, it does all this kind of fancy motion here. There is a moment here where the uh, you really slow down for a few frames. Okay, it's not a slow motion here, it just slow down the anticipation. See, they kind of always do it in a way that this arm is readable, this other arm is really readable here, right? The head is in this way, right? And then here they have, again, I wouldn't call it necessarily a slow motion, but he open up in this area. Okay, you see again how there is a contrast here in all the chest here, all the arm here is facing this way. All right, this is kind of going in the other way. You see how it's done in a way to really stage it properly, but the lower body, the legs are kind of going in the opposite side. So this is really a nice contrast in poses. Okay, and then again from here, again basically goes in the contrast is the opposite in terms of twist. Okay, so it's twisting the other way around. Okay, this is something that is being done, I would say, in many animation. I think the contrast always been done very well. You'll see a little bit more when we advance in the rest of the video here, right? You kind of will see this contrast happening very quickly. Again, this is a very simple, this is a very classic, energy sphere, right? Again, we go from this pose here, we have the compression here of the arms, right? The arms are being done here, so the visual effects can kind of convey into this area, but you can see how the overall body here is compressed, right? And then here this is kind of release and stretch, right? Again, stretch is not just about this squash here, and the stretch could be left and right as well. Okay, maybe this arm could have been, pushed a little bit more, but like this, I think it looks a little bit more regal in a way, a little bit more in control, a little bit more elegant, right? So I think it's really clever choice the way it's done. It's a classic in a way if you want, but it works very well, right? And here again, you see we see another example where we see multiple attack, and there are moments where there is a slow motion in certain poses. It's even here, right? When it's doing the twist and everything, it's gonna be slowed down. Sometimes not a lot, right? Sometimes like it could be just 6-7 frame, right? Enough where you can read the poses, even though there is a lot of visual effects, a lot of motion blur that covers everything. So I think that's also another reason why it needs to be done. Also for the quick time event, it needs to give you time to press that on and to read the action. So I think it's a combination of both. And you see even here, right? Like I love it here how you really push the contrast um, of the arm being here, right? The arm really being pushed here, and probably there is another leg here. I can't tell because he has the dress, but I can see the other arm here, right? But you can see overall the line of action. Again, sometimes even things gets very chaotic, having a good line of action, it helps you to feel the poses rather than clearly see what's going on, right? Again, you see again what we talk about it, the compression in the pose, right? See how down how down she goes with the body here, right? We talk about it this like before. You see, this is another moment where this is happening. This word is being charged up here in the sky. The other end maybe could have been here, whatever, right? But again, it's decompression, and then up in the sky with the very nice and elegant pose with all the particles and everything that make it look very, very nice. Okay. And the rest of the, and as you can see, yeah, again, very nice pose here at the end. See the legs very, very dynamic and and cool. Okay. Sometimes the feet are a bit broken, I realize, but again, little mistake. We let it slide because I really love the game. Yeah, see another moment of compression. She jumps up in the air. You see, I can't really actually I can't even tell what the pose is because of the motion blur, um the effects. There is this kind of effect here that kind of covers, but what I can feel is that basically the character is like a sphere, and then she kind of open up here with a kick, very very dynamic. All right, and it can still help you to give the feeling of uh, of the impact, okay? How dynamic it is to go from this one to this one, all right? If you saw my other video, then you realize now how poses are really important, especially for a game um, like this, okay? And this is obviously another one, and then you can guys go and stop if you want to analyze it. Now, the second mechanic that is very important is about the pairing. There is a couple of things I want to analyze about this one because this is not just about the animation of the character. This is a mechanic, in case you don't know the game, is where this is a turn-based game, but basically, if you press the parry right at at the moment of the hit of the enemy, you can do a parry and then we counterattack. So one of the reasons why animation here is extremely important because you need to be able to read very, very well the attack of the enemy. If the animation is not crystal clear, the player won't be able to understand when they need to uh, parry the attack, and so it would become very frustrating. It will basically bring to a fail into important game mechanics of the actual game. And so, if you can see here, again, they really do this very nice and clear anticipation, and they tend to hold very, like I wouldn't tell exactly, maybe between 6 to 8 frames, maybe 10 if you're playing at 30 frames per second, right? But you see, it's very, very clear what's going on here, right? And even though after the first swing, right? Yeah, see what's happening here? There is a moment where the enemy is kind of dragging with all his energy, right? Kind of bringing the sword down like this, right? Right? See, he reads very, very clearly. And then again, one more time, we have again what we talked before, right? We have a great pose here, right? We have this great anticipation, and boom, the attack. And again, look how cool it is. Look how fancy she look like with the uh, you know with the arms behind her back, right? It make it look like she's doing kind of no effort, like she like a piece of cake for her, right? Boom, here, right, with all the hair. Like I really love these details. I really love this pose. Some of them are really exceptional. Again, this is another case, right? And you also realize as an animator you can have fun with this because there is a moment where this character lands. He does this first movement here. We cannot look this one as an anticipation. In fact, you have no idea, guys, how many times I tried to parry this monster and I was failing because this is a fake anticipation. And then it does this movement, and then it goes into this actual. Okay, so this is the actual real anticipation, right? That, as you can see, it reads very well, right? So once you know how to do those things well, you can actually use your animation to trick the player, right? And you see exactly he does the attack, right? He gets into these other poses where he basically um, get into the second anticipation, right? I think maybe here we can argue that the shield is a little bit too big and makes it not super readable. But once you learn, you know what to do, right? You see, yeah, you see even here how clear it is, right? You see, yeah, we talk about how the mask here kind of cover the entire character, but what is important is this one: is the sword going in the opposite direction, right? And the legs here up in the air, right? This makes it readable enough, right? And then obviously you see, very again we talk about it, right? The enemy is striking. Okay, even the enemy has very. You see, everything needs to be extremely readable. For me, regardless if it's for this game or whatever, extremely important when you do combat for a video game, your striking attack poses needs to be extremely readable, right? And here again, we have this other, um, again, see, when she parries, she goes down into this position as we talk about it, right? Now you started to see, in a way, a little bit the pattern, that I've been talking since the beginning of this video, right? She goes anticipation, she put the weapon here on the side for readability, right? And then boom, she goes up in the air. If you realize when she goes up in the air, it doesn't really matter what the attack is because she just looks like she's doing basically a backflip, right? But because of the contrast and the explosion feeling that you're getting from all these, right, is not even that important. You still get the right feeling um, right away. And you see, this is another example. How did they change the anticipation? This is another thing that tricks me a lot of time, guys. Is basically when this character goes into this moment, as you can see, the anticipation is very clear, but this anticipation, it lasts extremely long. And so you are there, okay, it's about to strike, right? And how many times I fail. So again, as an animator, you can also play with these mechanics just by changing timing, because this is clearly the anticipation pose, but it's being longer than unusual. It tends to trick your mind, right? And then again, same stuff here. Again, you see how clear is the poses here. Look at this one. Boom. Love the attack here with all his strength um, coming down here, right? With the one leg up in the air, the other here, right? The other leg probably. See how powerful. You can see when a good pose is really good, when with a few line, you can understand the energy and the power of that pose. All right. And again, you see here, like again, this is the moment where she parry, right? So basically, she's using her hands kind of to wave in this direction, right? And again, right? It's contrast from whatever previous pose she had, right? That doesn't matter because you see this contrast in her poses and make it look very dynamic. So in this clip, again, we're gonna talk about it and take a look a few animation of the enemy, how important is the readability. Okay, you see here, right, up in the sky. Can you see the silhouette? Something a lot of animators they really struggle to understand, and sometimes they forgot to do. Look, there is only the black silhouette against the sun. He reads very well, right? Then the attack, then another one. He goes up in the sky, right, like this, with a weapon like this, right? Maybe this one could have been here, right? This other one could have. But you're getting the point. He reads well, right? Second attack, and another one here. Okay. See, really well done. That's why it's so important, because if you don't know how to do great poses, well, the player won't know um, when to strike, right? He wouldn't know what to do. Okay, that's why it's very crucial. I think the animator here for this game, for this combat, really well, for every combat, but this one a lot more. they really play a crucial role. All right. And there is this last mechanic at the end where it's basically a super parry, a super attack with a super parry, where they had to exaggerate stuff even more. In fact, the attack, the counter attack, it's even cooler, right? You can see here again, the principle is the same, very exaggerated, very long anticipation here, right? You see the kind of games goes into slow motion, it changed chromatic view, it give you the focus on the enemy, right? Really well done. And bam, you see like she does this slow motion jump, right? And again, she does a slow motion here just to give you the opportunity to see the charge, the opportunity to see her motion. Again, jump up in the sky, right? What we talked about before about the contrast in shape, and then a strike here, right? A little bit of a pity for me that there is so much visual effects and motion blur, and sometimes you see here there is all the visual effects. You don't see the pose anymore. I'm quite sure the animator who work on this will be very disappointed, but it happens. For me, sometimes it's better to do less because for a combat, it's a lot more important to see the action of the actual character than so much motion blur and dust and stuff like that. But you see, when it's well done, you can still read the epicness of the attack, right? And here again, same scenario, right? I see. I love the pose here that kind of hint the fact that she was, using her her hands here to kind of block the attack with her blade, right? Right. I think it's really, really nice the way it's been framed and everything. You see the character is here on this side of the frame, the enemies on this side, right? It goes it goes very well, right? And you see these other things I want to show you at the end. Again, this is another great way of doing contrast. Look at this pose. Look at this pose. How it looks super cool. How she kinda compress an arm like this, the other arm kind of compressed here, right? The face being visible, all right? Compression here of the leg. You can see there is a pose extremely compressed, ready to explode. In fact, you feel the explosion in here. Actually, I couldn't find another video, but I know there is, because I played the game. I know there are other moments where the camera is a little bit more on the side, and this one reads a lot better, right? I couldn't find exactly the one I was looking for, so this one will do. But again, and it also helps, the camera movement, the camera zooming out, because you're going from this is a little bit closer to this one where the camera zooming out is slowly rotating. It helps to make everything super impactful and makes this combat so enjoyable. Again, here we had another example. And yeah, same stuff here. I love these two poses here. Again, the principle is the same. As you can see, guys, the formula is the same. It just the pose is very difficult. It's very different, sorry. If we go here, again, you can see the compression of the body. You can see it's try to parry with his arm, right? You can see the shoulder being compressed, right? Right, it's kind of sliding back. Okay, this is what makes him look even cooler, right? It's sliding back while it's just maintaining the poses. Okay, and then it goes into here. And look, this amazing anticipation. Really loving it here, right? The line of action, again, the leg. You can feel the torso, even though he has claws and everything, right? You can feel the torso is basically something like this, right? With this war going in this scenario, right? And you see even here, because from this pose you cannot imagine a strike just go in this direction, but they cheated here. They make the character slide into this position. Again, very well done. Oops, they forgot to animate that one, I guess. Um, okay, see, always readable, always readable. Okay, that's why, guys, if you saw on my tutorial on my channel, You saw so many videos about making good poses. I made my own masterclass and everything, right? This is the reason why those are so important, because those poses are really key in a good combat, right? And it's what makes really the difference between a great combat system and a mediocre one, right? Again, second, you can see here, guys, same principle here. Great anticipation. And this guy is another example where even though I love the combat and everything, I couldn't see what's going on because of there is really literally visual effects here after this moment covering everything. Even I pause it, I wasn't sure if it was teletransporting because I can barely see her here, but I'm basically missing the action. I only read the landing after. Not sure it was the best choice in this case. But again, regardless of this, guys, as you can see, I'm very enthusiastic about this game. I really love how they do the animation, or really integrating part of the gameplay, and how they really contribute to make this gameplay mechanic really solid and wonderful to play. I'm having a great time. By the way, if you haven't played this game, I'll suggest you to go and buy it. If you're an animator, you should definitely watch it and play, because I think as an animator, if you especially want to work in games, or if you're already working in games, there is tons of things to learn, and I think you will enjoy a lot. Okay, guys, hope you enjoyed this video, and see you next time. Ciao.